Okay, today I'm going to talk again about trend extrapolating or trend extrapolation to continue what has been brief last Monday. And now I'm going to share today's lecture note. Yeah, our today's lecture is about extrapolating technological trend. On Monday, I've already talked on the basic concept of trend extrapolation using mathematical model and also um, using graphical model. And for graphical model, I show you a few example of regression lines on Monday lecture. And today, we'll continue the lecture and we are going to talk about, I'm going to talk about S-shaped curves. As I did mention at the end of our lecture on Monday, that many relationship does not follow the straight line, or many technological change are non-linear line, or so non-linear equation or non-linear relationship have to be transformed, as I did mention on Monday. Okay, so we use a few transformation techniques such as Fisher-Fry and Gompez to transform the S curve to the straight line, and from that straight line we can continue with extrapolating. Okay, so today's lecture is still on understanding the extrapolation in technological forecasting. We focus more on technological forecasting. On Monday, just a brief concept on trend analysis, and we use regression line, single or multiple regression to extrapolate for forecasting. Okay, so today, first I will talk about S-shaped curves, and then steps in trend analysis, especially in technological forecasting. Okay. Typical patterns of technological innovation most likely follow the form of S-shaped growth. Many technological change follow S-shaped growth, or formerly known as sigmoidal. Sigmoidal curve is as S-shaped curves or sigmoidal curves. Describe many natural phenomena. Based on those phenomena, expert has come up with this curve, sigmoidal or S curve. There are a few biological theory studied by researcher previously, and from that research they come up with this theory, and also this sigmoidal curve, or known as S-shaped curve. Among other is the uh, embryo theory, pumpkin theory of technological innovation, and also yeast theory. Pumpkin theory has been, you can, I show to you after this. Pumpkin theory, pumpkin curve, uh, follow the S-shaped growth, and also the study of embryo in the womb of woman, also following the development of embryo in the womb, also following the S-shaped curve. Among other characteristic or properties of this S-shaped curve, it starts with relatively slow. At the beginnings, normally it's slow, and then followed by a steep growth. And next, turnover as size asymptotically approaches the limit. Yeah. Also, we can see in what's happening uh, in the COVID-19 spread, virus COVID or coronavirus spread in Malaysia. Also follow S curve. I show you with this. This is an example of pumpkin curve, as we can see in this pumpkin curve. It starts with uh, slow and then steep growth. At the beginning, with a slow growth represented by the tangent or the slope. If we calculate here, slope here from this point to this point, we can see it's only a small change or small incremental. And then in this area, the slope getting higher, meaning that it's getting steeper or ascending here. And then here it become maturity, where the tangent or the slope, or sometimes we can also use dy dx here equal to 0. This is the characteristic of S curve. As looking at this plot, merely or nearly similar to, they call it sigmoid or S curve shape. Sometimes also called logistic curve. And to represent this S-curve or sigmoidal curves, various mathematical formulation can depict such pattern. And as I told you on Monday lecture, uh, this can be represented by structural equation, and this structural equation get complex and more complex. Normally we use statistical application like SBSD or Excel to compute or to calculate uh, this mathematical formulation of equation. Examples of mathematical formulation or equation represent S-curve, Fisher-Price, and Gomez. Next, we go to step in trend analysis. There are uh, four main steps when we want to conduct trend analysis for forecasting or for technological forecasting, for extrapolating, or we want to extrapolate. The first step is to identify proper model. It is more or less like what you are doing in your proposal now. Yeah. Also for the quiz number 1 for this subject. Yeah. In your quiz, you are supposed to identify technical problems or technical attributes and solution based on retrospective study, based on the study of the case study of cable in between UK and US, see between and US. And, yeah, some of you get right answer in your quiz, and many of you do not give full answers of the technical problems and also solutions of those from that case. And also the second question about the assessment of the impact of that retrospective study, or the impact of change, technological change, the okay. In your proposal, PSM proposal, for example, you have to identify problems. You have to state clearly the problems from the beginning. And based on that problem, you can try to identify theory explaining the problem. Yeah. That's problem. It can we can look the problem for your proposal, PSM proposal. Most of you are doing PSM proposal now. Yeah. Most problem can be looked into two perspectives. First, we call it society perspective, and then second, academic perspective. The society perspective, as what you did in quiz 1 or quiz about that cable, the retrospective study, you have to identify the problem, as mentioned in the case, before they have the cable, uh, the transmission of news or information from US to UK sometimes took more than 2 weeks. Yeah. For example, the declaration of the World War, the declaration between of the war between English and US. There was a war between English and US. It took more than 2 weeks. The treaty has been signed in England by the Queen, but the war still happened in US. Why? Because the information about the treaty, about uh, the the war has been stopped by the Queen, only received by American people after 2 weeks' time. So this is one of the uh, we call it society problem, example of society problems. And to solve this problem, they have to expedite the transformation of the info. And at that time, already available inland cable for telegraphic. They use telegraphic, they use telephone, but only on by using inland and to connect US and uh, England. They have to lay down uh, uh, under the sea cable, and there are many technical problem of this project to lay down under the sea cable, uh, because it's not similar as inland cable. Okay, among other technical problem, we can divide it into, for example, in engineering, uh, you learn about 4 or 5 M about material problem, or and then technical or methods, techniques or methods, another M. Material problem, methods problem, and then beside methods, another M is the uh, man or manning, the people problem. Because all this you have to consider as engineer, for any technical project, you have to understand the technical problem, including materials, including uh, the methods, the manning, and also uh, one of the most important about the money, about the fund and the investment. Okay, that's 4M. Yeah. Uh, and another M is management problem as well. Yeah. Uh, that's, we call it society perspective of problems that you can write or look for your PSM proposal. And another perspective from academic, from theoretical or conceptual perspective. So in your, I'm talking to your PSM as well, because I'm giving some hint to my 2 students, which I'm still waiting for submission of at least report for chapter 1. Okay. Um, you need to have certain concept or theoretical as the background of uh, to explain the phenomena. That's for PSM. In many cases, you can choose one concept or theory, or you can combine, or you can also uh, adopt from the previous already viable theory or concept, and then make it as your uh, model for further study in your PSM. For the exercise of quiz number 1, we only the question only asks about the technical attributes and the solutions based on that experience. For example, material technology, as I did mention just now, 4M including material methods, manning, and also uh, money as well. One of the most concern in technology forecasting is about uh, materials. What material appropriate for under the sea cable? Yeah. As you can read from the case study, based on the experience they have for the first time loss, second time loss, and then the third time try, and fortunately they make success. Yeah, with the third time try, and also it costs money. Yeah, when we're talking about the material for the cable under the sea cable, we are not only talking about the inner wire, but also the insulation materials to cover the wire. Otherwise, the electrical charge will spread over the sea, over the water. So, uh, under the sea cable, it's not or was not as similar as uh, inland cable. The material also have to taken into consideration yeah, the length of um, the length or the distance that they want to uh, lay out or put or lay down, put the cable under the sea. Just imagine more than 1,600 nautical miles from island to Newfoundland in US. It's not a short distance, so that's why in the first attempt they make two parts. From the middle, they used two ship, and then this ship connecting at the middle, connecting the cable at the middle, and then start lay down on under the sea. One to move to island, and another one move to Newfoundland. And unfortunately, it break down or broken down uh, just after a while of laying down that cable. That's technical problem. So it's take another 10 years for them to innovate new material for cables, the inner wire and also the insulation. And they use jute for insulating for the second time cable. And also, that's an example. And yet, uh, just a few minutes after laying down the second cable is also uh, broken down. Yeah, and it costs money. Just imagine very long cable, yeah, from uh, island to Newfoundland. As I did mention, more than 1.6 thousand, yeah, or 1,600 nautical miles. Very long and very costly as well because it's new technology at that time. And talking about another M, money as well, they have to find other sponsorship for investment as well. Yeah. Uh, that's technical problems, and uh, for more detailed story, actually that case I post in the quiz taken from internet. You can read from internet about the. I just leave it like that, the question, and also just giving you the case study. Yeah, if you have a brighter idea, or you are cleverer, you can simply go to Google and then find the more detailed study of story of the um, cable laying in from US to UK. The first transatlantic cable. Just type transatlantic cable and then it's appear a few Google site, so you can read about the materials, about the methods. Another problem. A few students highlight about the methods for example, for transportation, not only to transport, but to roll the very long cable. You have to think, engineer, you have to come out with solution. Yeah? More or less like you are doing PSM, your proposal. As a student, for example, my previous student, one of my previous student, she did on internet banking. Another student use cashless money or cashless transaction, uh, cashless service in Malaysia. Of course, they have implemented it, yeah, but another example, PayPal in Malaysia and Alipay in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan. Uh, but there exist problems, technical problems. So specifying problem can make you identify objective of your ESM by studying society problem and also academic aspect or perspective. Okay. Uh, Transportation and okay, as a methods problem, yeah, or the solution of process, yeah, as for methods, normally the solution is the process technological change. Uh, they have changed a few times of ship. For the first time, they used two ships to transport from the middle, one to the Newfoundland and another one to uh, island. Uh, and they also experienced before that, before having that ship, uh, when they put the load of the cable, uh, just immediately the ship sank into the water. So that's uh, as you can read from the case of transatlantic cable. Uh, the third attempt they use uh, passenger ship, passenger ship that transport people from England to India. Okay? So they renovate that ship uh, because that ship was big ship, uh, and they renovate that ship, which uh, they can put the cable, all the cable, so they transport uh, using that big ship from Ireland to Newfoundland in US. Okay, for that renovation, that's also better. How to roll that cable, how to put that cable, how to take that cable into the ship. So it's come the solution of renovation the ship, and also the techniques. That's technical techniques to roll the ship. You can see the picture uh, in Google uh, to get a better picture of the quiz question that I posed to you last week. Okay. Uh, that's we call it society problems and money as well in terms of investment. Uh, Very interesting if you read the case of Atlantic Cable, because when we talk about money and talk investment, normally money or account, financial account has been closed every year. But due to project and this project, Atlantic cable laid down under the sea, it took more than 20 years to success. Lots of frustration by the investor, and some of the investor quit, and developer or the engineer have to uh, find another sponsor or investor for the project, and it's not easy and it takes time. That's why uh, it took more than 20 years uh, to success for the first Atlantic uh, cable to lay down in the sea, under the sea. Uh, because yeah, most investor or the financial evaluator, they will evaluate financially using account and annually or every year, as you learn in accounting and also in financial management. Annually, you have to evaluate, and uh, no return within that time. Just spending of money. If we have S curve, so it's negative S curve at the beginning, without any return, with any economic return, and the uh, return only enjoy after more than 20 years time, yeah, by the engineer, and then they come out with a few more cables, four more cables uh, over the world. That's technical problem, and in your PSM you have to also include uh, academic perspective from conceptual and theoretical aspect, explaining the phenomena, whatever about the money. For example, I did mention about cashless and internet banking, PayPal, and so on. Many uh, writers already published their uh, writing in articles. The best reference is articles. So uh, you can take, and then you can summarize uh, the review, or we call it literature reviews. Yeah? All those literature you can put in one table, and which theory, what concept they use, and so on. And you can adopt or you can adapt. Adopt mean that you copy exactly one of the best from those model used or theoretical explain those previous phenomena. And you can also adapt or slightly change. You may change by add or make modification by adding one theory with another or one concept with another, uh, and then uh, create a new model of yours. That's for your proposal, obviously. Okay, talking about model. Okay, also in trend analysis, the first step is to identify proper model for technological change. You are having data or you are going to collect data. You are going to perform trend analysis. So you have to select what model that appropriate for your study. And for technological change, as I did mention, it normally follow S curve. We can use Fisher-Price model or equivalently Pearl model or Gomez model, and also uh, technical progress function. There are also other model beside S shape, or some of them structural equation, such as student use SEM, structure equation modeling. Some of them they use learning curve and uh, exponential growth, and also linear uh, regression 9, as what uh, I brief you on Monday. Of course, if the equation is simple, as I show you on Monday, uh, y or x t plus 1 equal to xt. Just simple regression 9. We assume that next year data is equal to last year uh, data. So x t plus 1 equal to xt. And then we have a few modification. I show you last on the Monday, the fraction or adding the constant. That's the multiple regression, more multiple regression. Yeah? And we can compute linear line. And for non-linear, we can use Fisher-Price, Gomez, technical progress function, mathematical model, learning curve, and many other. Next step is to fit the model to data. First, you identify and select which model you want to use. Also in your PSM proposal, after identifying the model, y equal to x1 plus x2, x3, y equivalent to dependent variables, x1, x2, x3, x4 equivalent to uh, independent variables, many factors to taken into consideration. For example, for the subscriptions of PayPal or cashless, transaction by student in UTM. That's an example. Okay. Uh, let's okay. Then the next step is fitting the model to the data. Okay. And step number 3, use the model to project graphically and mathematically. So using that model, for example, linear model, and then you can extend graphically. Just draw a continual line to project the forecast. And you can also use mathematical equation, regression mathematical equation to extrapolate, forecast the what's going to happen in the future. And step number 4, perform sensitivity analysis and also interpret the project. Okay, let's us look a few examples of model variables in technological change study. The first example of model named envelope curve, consisting of a few S curve. Envelope curve is few curve. We can identify a few curves inside this, a few S curve inside this envelope curves. Okay, this is an example of envelope curve. As you can see in this, the construction of aircraft at the beginning, they use biplane engine, and then they use monoplane engine. And next generation or another generation, they use jet engine in construction of plane. We can see here from 1990s till 1920s, about 20 years time, the construction of plane used by plane or two engine plane. As we can see here, this is the speed in miles per hour. By using biplane, this is the early generation of plane shown here, with low starting at the beginning and then steeping or improving, ascending in the middle. Sometime maybe 1915 they come up with a better technology in biplane, and get maturity by sometimes in 1923. Yeah, it's matured here, 1995. where no further improvement made to that biplane engine. Yeah? And uh, another generation of plane engine has been created, which use monoplane technology. And we can see it's also takes some time for monoplane technology to improve from late 1920s, sometime in 1928 till 1940s. And then it's steeping or ascending, meaning that much improvement, yeah? uh, or change in technological change. So improve the sorry, the technical attributes, technical performance. Here the technical attribute measure in speed, because plane engine has been measured in speed per hour. And then it's saturated as well. Sometime in 1945, no more improvement or change has been made, and they come out with a better one, jet engine, or new uh, generation of plane engine. As we can see here, slowing starting at the beginning and then steep just after 1 2 years steeping, and also after some time by 1960s the technical speed as well uh, get saturated, 1966 or sometime. So they have and after that they come out with supersonic, as I told you about Concorde. Yeah, another, but unfortunately due to marketing uh, displacement, they just make it for executive or special customers. Uh, After some time, no buyers or no consumptions or no users of that Concorde plane. And now people still use jet engine plane. We can see here uh, three generation of or three S curve in this uh, sample of jet engine. That's an envelope curve. Yeah, an envelope curve. Okay, next, another model follow technical progress function. Technical progress function, normally measuring the effort. Uh, we put effort and we measure the change in output or production or in technical effect or technical attributes. That's we call it technical progress function. Also, you can see in the uh, chapter 10, this is sample of technical progress function. Okay. This is technical progress function following S curve. Instead of using this x-axis, I show you last time, or in the pumpkin curve we use uh, time for the x-axis, so we use effort here. Yeah. Uh, we start with slow slope here, and then ascending, and then saturated or maturity stage. This is the beginning stage with a low effort and also low technical progress, and then more effort uh, putting in the production and more uh, technical progress. And after some time, even though we have put most effort, but um, the technical progress have a marginal change. And after some time, the slope equal to zero. Or we call it dy dx equals to zero here. That's technical function curve, and this is R&D curve. We change y-axis from effort to R&D productivity, production output here. Okay, and after maturity, after some time, uh, when dy dx, or we can call here, if we put productivity and effort, dp de, or delta p equal to delta p equal delta e equal to zero, is downward sloping, or negative sloping. Uh, Further efforts you put in the R&D, but the yield, it produce lesser and lesser and lesser, starting from this maturity, or sometimes it's called diminishing marginal return. Yeah? Further additional will yield lesser. Gradually, it become lesser output, diminishing marginal return in economic. Uh, Also for investment, for money. Let's change, for example, here we put money. Yeah? Uh, After maturity, like in many technological innovation, yeah? For example, in BlackBerry, in Nokia smartphone, after some time, they try to keep improving. Even Microsoft buy off BlackBerry to improve. But what's happening? Gradually, it's out of market. Further improvement have negative effect, or negative uh, slope, meaning that negative yield in terms of returns can be money, uh, and increasing investment here. You put more money, but more uh, or gradually fail of return. Also, in terms of marketing, let's say we put here product marketing, product market or sales. Nokia have made several attempts to improve their products, telephone product. for product, but with lower results. Gradually, it's have negative returns. This is called it diminishing marginal returns. Uh, that's an example. Technical progress and R&D productivity is example of technical progress function. Next, both envelope and technical progress function follow S curve. Another model also can represent technological change by using learning curve. This is the equation for learning curve. Learning curve, or there's theory of learning by using. In technological change, there are two theory: learning by using and learning also by looking other people use it. For example, when you want to buy a new laptop or new phone, so you learn from your friends of the capacity, of the advantages, of disadvantages, how or the performance, for example, technical attributes, the speed of Core i7 compared to Core i5. So that's based on learning theory. We call it learning theory. Learning by using, or learning by looking at other people's use that product. Or simply mathematical equation y equal to a ax the power of b. Ax the power of b. That's the equation for learning curve. Ax the power of ax the power of minus b. That's the equation of learning curve. The you can convert or transform to become a linear line by using log. Here is the formula for transformation. Y equal to log A minus B log X. You learn in logs, simply log Y, log Y equal to log A minus B log X. Okay. Just a few more minutes. I want to share with you sample of this is the learning curve. Sample of learning curve. As you can see here, cumulative number of aircraft produced for the axis and assembly hours per aircraft. by using this scattered diagram or plotting uh, the point on the graph paper, we can see the pattern. And this is the learning curve, which is decreasing or downward sloping in general. The pattern here, downward sloping. And you can transform using, you can also compute by using the formula and then transform to the linear line using uh, formula given just now. The last model that I want to share with you is exponential growth. The linear we have taught uh, on Monday lecture can refer to regression line or linear line. And for exponential growth, uh, this is the mathematical model of the exponential growth you are supposed to cover in your moving average study during your management science. Fx equal to A times 1 plus R the power of X, where A the initial amount and R the growth rate and X number of time series. Uh, that's exponential, another model which can be applied in when you want to select uh, model. We are still on the first step, selecting appropriate model for your trend exploration or trend analysis. The last one I want to share with you a few example of exponential. Sorry. Okay. Growth. Uh, this is exponential growth graph. Also, uh, pandemic. Pandemic follow is. Yeah, I have to stop now because